So we're very excited. This was a very popular speaker series, and so we're honored to have Deb Reuland. And I'm just going to read Deb's bio and tell you a little bit about her. First of all, I do want to say that the Women's Center, we're some of Deb's biggest fans. And that's why we were very excited to have her come and speak. So Deb has a, she's probably one of the most committed people I've met to, she's so committed to addressing human trafficking. And for us at the Women's Center, that's obviously an area that we address, being a sexual assault agency. So when we meet friends like Deb and she embraced our mission and we embraced hers, so we think it's a perfect match. So Deb was after 41 years as a teacher and district mentor, Deb retired from the Milwaukee public school system. She's now serving the Waukesha community by leading the Catholic community of Waukesha's Stop Human Trafficking ministry for several area churches. She's also involved with the Wisconsin Anti-Human Trafficking Consortium, making school curriculum recommendations. She's a member of the Waukesha County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force Steering Committee and leads the prevention awareness subcommittee for that group. She's also, this goes on, she also is a member of works with the Franciscan Peacemakers Board and the Faith Coalition Against Sex Trafficking of Waukesha County, the steering committee. And Deb has won 2 awards, the Puzzle Piece of the Month Educators Piece from Washington County Anti-Trafficking Advocates, that was in April of last year, and the Franciscan Peacemakers Volunteer Service Award, which was of October last year. Deb has a very hands-on approach and lives the words of Mother Teresa, do small things with great love. And so we're very honored to have Deb as our speaker, and we're very proud to call her our friend. So we're going to turn it over to you, Deb.
Thanks, Angela. I first of all want to thank everyone for being here so early in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so hopefully I don't fall asleep during the presentation, but I'm going to work hard not to. First of all, before I even say anything, I also want to give a kudos to the Women's Center for number 1, inviting me, and for number 2, for all they do for our vulnerable population and for our trafficking victims here in Waukesha County. They are a pivotal place for us here in our mission with trafficking and domestic violence. So thank you for all you do. When I tried to prepare for this in a short period of time, I'm going to tell you I've never done anything virtual, so hopefully my head doesn't come out of the picture. If I do, please forgive me. But I want to cover, and I think it'll come across, my great passion for this and why it came about, the whole issue of human trafficking. Also, what action things I've done within the organizations that I became involved with after I found this as a great passion of mine after teaching. And then what you guys can do right now. Even during the pandemic, we haven't stopped working on this issue because this issue has increased during the pandemic. And I think people think because of the pandemic, trafficking, it slowed down like everything else. Well, it hasn't. It's increased for both our youth as well as adults. So I want to start with, obviously, what Angela said. I taught for 41 years in Milwaukee Public Schools, and I was a district mentor for new teachers. And during that time, I worked with kids that were kindergarten through 3rd, all the way up to middle school. The end of my career was middle school, and I worked with regular as well as special ed kids. And at the end of my career, I worked with emotionally disturbed behavior disorder students who were definitely victims of this problem. They were in the juvenile system, the court system, and everything else. So about 3 years ago, when I retired, I thought, what am I going to do? I'm not a sitter, I'm a doer. I don't think I want to substitute teach. I think I want to volunteer and get my hands in issues that I can make a difference. So our church got together and we had a speaker come in on human trafficking. And obviously when I heard that, I thought, well, I'm not sure why. Isn't that when people from other countries, come to the United States? I had no idea how global it was here within the United States. So after it was there's a group of sisters in the United States that are focused on human trafficking, and one of those sisters from the Door County area came and spoke. After that, I went to our committee and said, whoa, we need to do something, especially because I didn't understand how much youth were brought into this problem. And obviously that is close to my heart, on educating children and youth to make good decisions in their life and to give them the facts. So then after that, with our group, I started thinking, well, I need to know more about it, started reading. I went and dog sat, which I was talking to some people. That's what I've been doing since I've been retiring too. And I was in Hartford, and all of a sudden I went into a store in Hartford, Faith and Giggles, and they had this whole section on human trafficking. And I was like, whoa, this is really something. Never noticed this before. And I started talking to the owners, Wendy Smith and Jason Wicks, finding out that they had started at least 5 years previous to that, a group in Washington County called the Washington County Anti-Human Trafficking Advocates. And they had a group that they met monthly just to bring presenters on this topic to make people aware. So hence I was in that store about 3 hours talking to them, looking through their books, finding out about FCAST, which was the Faith Coalition Against Sex Trafficking in my own county, which then I went to their meetings and became involved. So everything kind of spiraled, and I started going to presentations, learning more about it, reading more about it, and then I brought it back to my church, to my regular local area. At that point, it was just the Catholic community of Waukesha.
Okay.
And now we have about 12 people, and we live with the philosophy that this isn't a problem just for us. So it is open. Our organization meets monthly. We just met last night virtually, and it's welcome to everyone's welcome. So we have 4 people that aren't even part of our parishes that now belong because they want to do something in this effort. Things we have done is we've brought presenters in. We started book studies. And another thing that is a big passion of mine is that get as many people involved, and the task force has really helped me with that, because I have met so many people like the Women's Center, people from Plowshare, which is our fair trade store, the Tourism Society, and all these people that are committed that whenever we do projects now, we work as a whole on this initiative, so that we have groups of people, lots of ideas, and we collaborate on things. So we did have a book club this year, a matter of fact, that Plowshare and our group co-did and collaborated on, and we had about 10 to 12 people that showed up regularly for the book study. And now we're looking at possibly continuing that virtually, so that we can still keep people aware of the problem and get them more invested into the situation. My involvement with Franciscan Peacemakers happened next, because when I became involved with FCAST, they were very involved with Franciscan Peacemakers, and I don't know if all of you know Franciscan Peacemakers, but they're a nonprofit in Milwaukee on 33rd and Lisbon. They were started about 26 years ago. The police department went to the Archdiocese of Milwaukee and said, we have an issue with trafficking and prostitution, can you help us out? And that's when Franciscan Peacemakers started just as a street ministry, and basically on the north side of Milwaukee. Now they have a street ministry that's both on the north side and south side. They have a Clare Community, which is a residential center. Not for too many people, only for 3 at this time. We're still working on increasing that. They opened a hospitality center that's open 5 days a week. Now it's kind of closed because of the pandemic. And they have a social enterprise to keep the women employed, where they make bath body lotions like hand lotions, soaps, bath bombs. And so what we picked up in our community here in Waukesha is we opened up the farmers market in Waukesha 2 years ago, selling their products, thinking we're going to support them, get money for the women so they can, stay out of the life and have an income. To our surprise, we reached a lot of people here in Waukesha. We found out that our ministry was not just selling those products, but meeting the needs of people in our community. On an average, we had at least 1 to 2 people that would come to see us in our community that would talk to us that were either survivors or were in need of help. And obviously we aren't counselors, we aren't experts. So we've had Women's Center, 24-hour cards and their brochures in our booth. And that's what we gave them first. And then they always wanted to know about Franciscan peacemakers because we were selling their products, and gave those at the same time, saying it doesn't matter, but these are people that are resources out there that can help you. And what we found out is when we started this, this is what made the impact, is reaching people right here in Waukesha. We've met lots of them that just wanted to come and talk, that somebody was there that just would listen to them. And usually they would come at the end of the market because they knew it slowed down and other people weren't there, but the word got out. Now this year, I'm kind of jumping over, but this year we did not do it because of the pandemic, and a lot of people who volunteer are older, and we didn't want to make them susceptible to the virus. However, Deacon Steve, who is the executive director, decided that this market made the biggest impact of all they worked on, so he chose to have his women do the market. So they are at the farmers market this year, survivors and people who live at Clare community, and they're at the Thiensville. Those are the only two markets because of the impact that they had with Franciscan peacemakers. So they are still there selling. We are not, just because of the pandemic. Another organization, and I see some members that are talking that I'm involved with that I didn't write down in my bio just because it would have become too long, is the STLLC, which is Stop Trafficking Together Lake County. That's at Dellfield, Economowalk, and there's 3 churches involved there. I joined their committee, and we support each other with our presentations and outreach and everything that we do as well. Because as I said at the beginning, I really believe that we have to collaborate on this issue and not work in isolation, because we can always learn from each other. The next thing I wanted to talk about is both FCAST, our Faith Coalition Against Sex Trafficking I'm involved with, and the Waukesha and County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. Because when I was preparing for this, I realized that we are kind of like a group together, because we do so much collaborating with those 2 groups that it's kind of hard to separate the 2. 3 things that we're really, really working on right now during the pandemic are 3 things. Number 1 is a speakers list that's going to be available to everyone in Waukesha County. The DNC, we are still trying to work on stuff for the Democratic National Convention, even though it's been a lot of things that look different. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then my ultimate goal, that since I've got involved, is getting a human trafficking curriculum into our school system, to making our kids knowledgeable of this problem so they can make educated choices in their life. So the speakers list that we're working on, and again, these are people from our Faith Coalition and also from the task force that are involved in putting together a speakers list. Basically, we're putting people down that we've heard or we've had present in our organizations, and we are getting together contact information, things like asking, what do you talk about? Who do you present to? What audience do you like? Is there a cost? Things like that. The reason we're starting with that is a lot of organizations, not just church organizations, but like Rotary clubs and other groups have gotten in contact with us and said, we want to make our community aware of this issue. Who could come and speak? Do you speak? And so we thought this would be valuable to have this speakers list available while we mentor groups the first time into getting speakers to come and speak. So we're hoping by January that this list might be available to everyone. We're meeting on next Friday to make some final stuff and make some phone calls and get this list going. So that's number 1 of our things we're working on now during the pandemic. The DNC Hotel Outreach is another initiative we're working on. As Angela knows, and I want to thank her immensely because she has helped me a lot in this endeavor. And also Tammy Tritz, who's part of our task force, who is the executive director of our tourism here in Waukesha County and Pewaukee area. When we started this initiative, there were 3 things we were looking at. We were looking at hotel training of staff members. We were looking at reaching the population of visitors and how they could be aware of the red flags of trafficking happening around them and who they could call if they noticed it. And number 3, we were looking at an overflow shelter. And when the Women's Center got full, if we needed more space, then we'd have another shelter for victims. However, because of the pandemic, as everybody knows, we had to replan, we had to regroup, because delegates are told now that there shouldn't be appearing, it should be virtual. The most we're hearing of the people that are going to show up are between 200 and 500 people, and they'll probably be in Milwaukee. But we still want to prepare for something, because we don't know. I mean, trafficking's still happening. People still might be coming out here. I just want to update you a little. The training probably is not going to happen, and the reason for that, at this point, it will happen, but it won't happen before the DNC on August 17th, is because hotels aren't even being used now because of the pandemic. Most of our hotels average 5 to 10 people, or rooms being done a day. They don't even know how they're staying alive right now. And because of that, they have laid off 75% of their staff. And so general managers are front desk people and stuff, so it doesn't make sense to train anyone at this point. But we are still thinking of putting some of our Be Aware cards. I don't know if you can see them, but we did print. I see there's some glare, but we did put together these Be Awareness cards that we had printed at Carroll University that we do want to put in hotels. We did make 20,000 of them, because our ultimate goal is not just during the DNC, but to continuously visit, maybe 3 to 5 months, all the hotels, and bring them hotline cards, and bring this Be Awareness card for them to put in rooms. And these Be Awareness cards, we wanted them to be very friendly. As you possibly can see, the only thing that's on here is a key, and then our Waukesha County Task Force symbol is on the back. And basically what it is on the back, it's going to tell them red flags that they might notice that someone's being trafficked. And then on the other side, where they're supposed to call. And what we've learned from the tourism lady is that they call the front desk. And then they'll know what to do, the front desk people. But since we've changed, that's going to be minimal. But the third part, with Angela's help, we aren't going to have an overflow shelter, because we don't think we're going to need that. But we're thinking of putting together a resource list of agencies that are available. And then we're going to give that list to people like Uber companies, taxi cabs, our hotels still, maybe gas stations like Quick Trip and stuff like that have already called on us numerous times to put something in their bathrooms. So we are going to give resource lists to people at the desks of agencies and phone numbers, so that, and a red flag letter. So if they notice any of this happening, they could call now during the DNC or anytime where it might happen. And then also our numbers, so if they want to contact us. Now, I don't know if, I know a lot of people that I see here that have listened before. We do have these hotline cards that we have printed. It has the hotline number on the back to call. And then on the other side, it has the clues for human trafficking, so people will know what to look for, and then questions to help identify a victim. These we will hand out as well. If you ever need them, you can contact me, and later on, they will be sending you a follow-up email with my email. But if right now, because it's not going to be easy for us to get these to you, if you go on the FCAST website, which is FCAST Walk, WAUKCTY, here it is right here too, .org. What we have done is put this hotline card on a website underneath resources, and you can download and print it yourself if you want to make copies. We only put that in the FCAST website in English, but we do have them in Spanish as well because of our Hispanic population. So if you contact me and want them for any reason, especially now, I would be happy to mail some to you. If you are dealing with an Hispanic population that you would want these hotline cards to get out, because we still want these to get out to the people, because one of our initiatives is if you see something, say something. I know I have to watch time because I could go on forever. In this, I want to talk about what we're doing, but also I want to talk about what you can do now to help us out with this initiative, even during the pandemic. Some other organizations that I'm on is that Angela talked about was the Wisconsin Anti-Human Trafficking Consortium. That meets 4 times a year. What I found is a benefit to that is we do a lot of networking with all organizations that deal with domestic violence and human trafficking across the state. So it's a good organization to be involved with for networking, learning what other people are doing, how we can collaborate, how we can connect. One perfect example is Fierce Freedom, who is very involved in this issue for quite a few years. I believe it's 7 or 8 now, out of Eau Claire, is very big in awareness. And they had a wonderful 1-day virtual summit about a week ago with speakers, and it was phenomenal. And one of the speakers that was there, which will be on the speakers list, which is a focus that our communities want to deal with this year, is the demand side. And they have hired someone called John Pulley, who was a buyer. Excellent speaker on that area. And we have not done a lot on the demand side. We've done a lot on the part of social media, human trafficking 101, pornography. And now we want to look at the demand side, because that's why we had the problem, because that demand is really out there. Another group that I'm on is the Plowshare Education Committee, because we collaborate with them. And Plowshare, our fair trade store here in Waukesha, is committed also to the eradication of human trafficking. So we have collaborated on the book study, and we also want to do presentations together. So we're very happy. And they're also on the steering committee. And then, of course, the biggest group we support and we want to be involved with is the Women's Center. They are the hub for us here in Waukesha. I can't say enough for them, and the speakers that I have heard speak from the Women's Center, who are very knowledgeable in this topic. And I was trained also by the Women's Center, and I decided after that training, and Angela was nice enough to allow me to be trained as an advocate, because I am now want to be an advocate for survivors, is their training was the best I've been in. I mean, something that I could bring back, something I could use, something that was doable. And I decided at that point to volunteer. So after the pandemic, hopefully I'll be able to help in the shelter, because I totally believe in what they do there. And one thing that really stood in my mind, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here with the Women's Center, but this is true. You'll notice that I only say from my heart what I believe, is that I found it as a very caring, welcoming environment. No matter who was working there, I just felt very welcome. It was just very, very warm environment. So thank you, everybody who's on from the Women's Center. You just have a wonderful facility there and what you do. Okay, the last thing I wanted to cover because of time is what can we do? What can you do? And what are we working on? The first thing I always started with was education. We got to educate ourselves on the topic. And the topic, it changes on a regular basis, especially now with the pandemic. What I gave to the Women's Center was a short list of bibliography of some human trafficking books that they will be sending out to you that I have read and I recommend. Our book club started with 2 books. One was In Our Backyard, which we believe is the best one to start with because it discusses human trafficking in general, both labor trafficking as well as sex trafficking. So it's a good starting point. And what's really nice is that each chapter, they have discussion questions. So for a book club or for yourself to rethink what's in the chapter, they have like 3 questions at the end of each chapter. So it's a good review. The second book we did with the Plowshare, which is the second one on the list, is called Refuse to Do Nothing. And this is about 2 ladies who got together and wanted to do something on this mission. And this whole book talks about all the different things they did to make awareness and to help in this area of human trafficking. And again, they also have questions at the end. I totally recommend these as 2 starting points for anyone. And they are the first 2 books on the list that you will get. But I did give a list of 8 books that I strongly recommend. They're all easy to come by either on Amazon, Martha Muir Bookstore here in Waukesha, or this bookstore I talked about in Hartford. She sells them at the cost of what she pays for them because she wants to educate our community on human trafficking, and that's Faith and Giggles in Hartford. The other thing I suggest is to people is to get on presentations like these speaker series we have here, virtual things that are happening by organizations, numerous organizations, like I told Fierce Freedom just had one. Right now, Nikosi is having one for 12 days. It started on Saturday and it goes till Tuesday. It's their End Exploitation Global Summit. And it's all online, and you can purchase it for, I believe, someone told me, Cindy, who's on this, for $75. And you can actually see all these presenters unlimited times if you purchase it. So this is one in a lifetime time where you can get this free and you can see it online. So if you go on the NCOSE website, NCOSE, you can still get on that to see all the speakers that are talking globally on the issue of human trafficking. So that's something you can do. There's lots of things happening now in our organizations with podcasts, Franciscan Peacemakers. Lots of people are doing podcasts right now to keep the education going on their websites. There's also a handout you're going to be getting. Obviously, it'll be online. They'll send it through email. Another thing that I give to people in our ministries now is links that you can go to keep aware of what's happening. The one that came through a grant that was given through the task force, through Lad Lake and Eric Calvino at Health and Human Services this year, we got total access to the Department of Justice online training modules. There's 6 of them that came from Child Protective Services called Human Trafficking 101. It's a good overview of everything, and I did give you that, and you will get it through email, the link for that, if you want to look at those modules. The other next 2 that I gave you are 2 documentaries that is just talk about human trafficking in the state of Wisconsin. The first one is called Coerced, which was put together, some of you might have seen it already. It was put together in probably 2017, 2018. I gave you the link if you haven't seen it and want to view that. But this one, I really want to speak up. This was just put out and it still hasn't given to everybody. And it's called It Happens Here. And it's the newest documentary that's been done by Asia Jackson, who is from the Health and Human Services. That was hired about 8 months ago. She is based in Milwaukee. She headed it, and this is human trafficking in Wisconsin also. This time what they did in this documentary is they chose 3 victims that are in the whole documentary. One is from Milwaukee, and the other 2 are from rural Wisconsin. And the other thing that I really like that they did is there's a mother who's the other one that talks about her son that was trafficked. And I think that's really important because I think lots of us don't think boys are being trafficked. And I think we're learning now that the data is showing that way more than 15%, it could be more than 50% are boys. But they're just not being documented. So this woman had her son who was being trafficked as a teenager. She talks about him because in his 20s, he did die of an overdose because he couldn't take it. And she is now a big advocate to get people aware of how youth are being trafficked. So she is one of the people that speak through this whole documentary as well. I think it's very well done. Because of time, I won't go through everything that's in it, but I do want to tell you what comes with this documentary is also a facilitator's guide. So if you decide to show it to a group, there is a facilitator's guide that goes with it. And then they also have 3 short little videos that you can show if you work with youth that they took from that documentary. One is about the life. Another one is how adults can help you. And so those are also on that website, the DOJ website that you will be given. I think it's a valuable resource. I really do. And it's today, it's happening right now, these people who are speaking. The last one that I gave you is something I just found because one thing I was looking into is what could we do virtually to get to parents about digital safety during the pandemic. This is not something I got. What I'm going to give you is what they're going to send you is a link to Fierce Freedom. They put something together that has short videos and handouts on this issue of digital safety. That's all it's on. The videos are no longer than 10 minutes long. I could tell you quickly what those videos are on. They're on trafficking and exploitation online. There's one on red flags on online grooming. There's one on app safety where they talk about Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, and there are handouts that go with each one of these videos. And they're very understandable, they're very simple, and you can download them right off that app, that link. There's one on online gaming. One thing I learned, by viewing these, that through their research, they have found out that that's where most of our youth grooming is happening during the pandemic, is on the gaming sites, even more than the apps right now. And then the last part that they have is they actually have a survivor advocate and her husband that have a 10-minute video talking about what they're doing with their own children, what app of bark they're putting on, how you can put it on, and how it's having an impact with their family. And then they also have something I thought that was interesting, is you can download a family screen time contract, a very simple one where parents or grandparents or whoever the guardian is can do with their child to limit screen time during this time and put some restrictions on it. Very simple little contract. But one thing I also like that they put in there is they want to say that they don't want to put fear into kids about not using the technology, but to put knowledge out there and to use tools to limit what kids are watching and how to keep them safe. So I think I'm probably down, but there's a couple of things I'd still want to say about what you can do. Please print those hotline cards, print them for someone else, because the only way we're going to stop something is if you see something, say something. So if your gut tells you you think something's wrong, you see one of these signs, please call the hotline number. Even if you make a mistake, at least sometime you might not, and you're going to save one life or help one person that's hurting right now. The other thing is to look at FCAS website or any of the human trafficking websites like the Women's Center, which we definitely support, Franciscan Peacemakers, Exploit No More, Lad Lake here in Waukesha that work with our youth. And donate money, donate time, donate things they need, because right now they need a lot of supplies and things, and if you go online, they'll tell you what they need donated and how you can get about getting them to the places, like the Women's Center. If you go on FCAS, we actually have Angela's contact number and people there that you can contact before you bring what they need. So that's something you can do. One other thing, because of working on school curriculum, and I'm so sorry I didn't get to that one. I'm sorry, there's so much I could share. But anyways, how can I make this short? We are moving on school curriculum. Excuse me. They had worked on one in Milwaukee that the state had hired a social worker for a training for staff members in schools. Staff meaning not just teachers, social workers, nurses, and it's very interactive. These will be online, and these are trafficking things that are free to our public schools. They have piloted it, and what they're looking at right now is how they can do it virtually in fall if they need to do this training for staff. The second component is for students. Now, I didn't know what was going to happen with the student curriculum. It is written. They finally finished it during the pandemic. And I met with one of the teachers, because at Horny Middle School here in Waukesha, that was one of the teachers that wrote the instructional unit. There was the teacher from Milwaukee High School of the Arts that wrote the unit, and there was someone from Minocqua and Eau Claire. So we had teachers from middle school and high school, because this curriculum is going to be geared for that age group. And we wanted them from all over the state. So they wrote it. Right now, what they're looking for in September is piloting it. There's 11 lessons. It's very interactive. A lot of videos from that It Happens Here documentary they used. And one thing that I really liked with their curriculum is survivors were involved with saying that, yes, this is important. Yes, this is true. They used the 4 people from that documentary to be the critiquers, the survivor critiquers of that curriculum. So what they're hoping to do is to get it out in the fall and get some teachers to pilot it. But how we can use you guys is this. We know, a lot of us as educators, that if we don't have people advocating for schools to put this out there, it's not going to happen because of time. There's 11 lessons. Teachers are crammed with everything else they have to cover. They're going to be worried about the pandemic, and getting that time is going to be real hard. But we want to stress the importance of it. So what we're asking is, if there are any people out there that know people in any of the school systems here in Waukesha County, to contact me, because we'd like to have you as a connection. So people that you know, that we can get into the schools and let them know a little bit more about it, and that it's coming out, and how we can help them to implement that into their curriculum, to either health teachers, English teachers, because this curriculum, it's not going to go into human growth and development. They have wrote the curriculum underneath Common Source state standards, and it's going to be under effective communication and analyzing influences. So this way it could fit into a lot of different classroom teachers. So an English teacher could cover it, history teacher could cover it, health teacher could cover it. They're hoping health, but they want to fit it in somewhere so that it gets covered in the schools. So if anyone knows of a school district or teachers or superintendents, I would really appreciate any support of those connections so we can talk about it with them so that they hopefully will utilize that program. And then lastly, with the DNC, we are going to be doing those mailings for the resource lists. So if anyone is welcoming to help out in any way with that, as far as if we brought envelopes, addressing them, or if anybody wants to give donations of any sort, because we do have to pay for the mailings, that would be very helpful too.
Deb, thank you so much for doing this for us. And thank you everybody for joining this morning and for your interest in learning about addressing human trafficking. We appreciate it.